so much to give you, this love in my heart that I'm feeling for you.
Let them say we're crazy. I don't care about that. Put your hand in my hand, baby. Don't ever look back. Let the world around us just fall apart. Baby, we can make it if we're heart to heart. And we can build this dream together, standing strong forever. Nothing's gonna stop us now. And if this world runs out of lovers, we'll still have each other. Nothing's gonna stop us. Nothing's gonna stop us now.
I'm so glad I found you. I'm not gonna lose you. Whatever it takes, I will stay here with you. Take it to the good times, see it through the bad times. Whatever it takes is what I'm gonna do.
Let them say we're crazy. What do they know? Put your arms around me, baby. Don't ever let go. Let the world around us just fall apart. Baby, we can make it if we're heart to heart. And we can build this dream together, standing strong forever. Nothing's gonna stop us now. And if this world runs out of lovers, we'll still have each other. Nothing's gonna stop us. Nothing's gonna stop us.
Ooh, all that I need is you.
All that I ever need.
And all that I want to do is
Hold you forever, forever and ever. We can build this dream together, standing strong forever. Nothing's gonna stop us now. And if this world runs out of lovers, we'll still have each other. Nothing's gonna stop us. Nothing's gonna stop
Well, hello everyone. I'm Sidney St. James, and I'm here with you today to talk about one of the last books that I just released on April the 3rd. It's an interesting book. It's called This Old House. And in a little town called Eagle Lake, Texas, back in 2003, I went out there and took over the family business. At that particular time, everything was running fine. Hard to make a living in a little small town, but we got by. But I kept staring over across the street at this old house. This old house was amazing. It was probably 150 years old. Now, you have to know about Eagle Lake. Eagle Lake is a town where they've had hundreds of houses like this, but they pushed them all down. There's only one house left in the town, and it was built back in 1847, torn down, and from all the material, they rebuilt it again in 1861. Well, there's a fellow in Eagle Lake, was a school teacher for many years, came into my store, my business front there in the town, and he asked me about if I would be interested in restoring the old house. And I said, yeah, I would love to restore an old house. I said, as a matter of fact, it's on my bucket list. So we went ahead and started working on negotiating, And he made it where we couldn't say no. He says, you took care of your grandmother's house, which is on Stockbridge Street, totally restored it, built in 1901. He liked what we did, and he would love to see the old house restored. So we took it on. We bought the house, and for 1 year worked on the house. Now, the fellow that sold it to us, his name was Bill Kale. He was a teacher out in Eagle Lake. And he had just gotten married, a few years before that. And him and his wife is from Spring, Texas, live in a nice house on the golf course. You come out to Eagle Lake, Texas, and there's just not a lot of houses built like that. Well, we bought the house. She was in the street one day, and I walked out and said, come on in. Let me show you what we've done. She said, oh, no, I don't think I want to go in that old house. At that particular time, I came up with the title of my book that I was going to write. This was in 2003. It's going to call That Old House. Of course, I changed it. It's This Old House now. But we worked on it real hard. At the end of it, in December, the town had a homes tour and asked us, could we just finish the house? We dressed up in all the period costume, opened up the house, and on the homes tour, showed the house to everyone. It's just about the same time we also moved into the house. Well, this is where, along the line, I took notes as we built and refurnished and refurbished the whole house, and lots of things happened. I dug a hole in the backyard under an old flower bed, and I found some bones. And to this day, I don't know who those bones belong to. We broke into the house and broke down some walls when we were doing our restoration. One of the walls we got down, we couldn't get behind the wall. Something was strange because we did the measurement, and that area behind the wall was larger than the two walls that came up and matched. That was something unusual. Now, what happened was we got a fellow out of Wharton, Texas. Let's see. Oh, gosh, I'm trying to remember his name now. Anyhow, he was an excellent woodworker, and he came in to do the woodwork. And one night on a Sunday night, he was sitting in the driveway, and I went over there and said, what's wrong? He said, I have no idea. I was in there, I was working. The room I was working on, and this was in the middle of summer, 85, 88 degrees. He said the whole room turned cold, just cold. And he said, something walked up behind me and tapped me on my shoulder. He said, I got the heck out of Dodge. So he ran out, sat in the driveway. He was scared to death. Well, other things happened. A guy was painting one of the rooms, one of the guys that worked for me in the heating and air conditioning business. He was painting a room, and as he was painting it, he felt that same cold air circulating around him. When he did, he looked down and he felt something tap him on the shoulder as well. And he looked, and in script, the full word of Annie was written in paint on the underside of the lid. Well, that's a little scary. Then sleeping at night in our master bedroom up at the top. Now, by the way, I have to throw a little blurb in here. This is the same bedroom that Delou Rose Harris, very famous for all the Texas history and textbooks, she wrote her memoirs about the runaway scrape. This was the room that she wrote her memoirs in. This is at the turn of the century. And I'm telling you this because it's a very interesting story what happened. So anyhow, we were laying in bed and boom, boom, boom. We heard something on top. Now this is a very high, steep roof made out of tile, brick tile. Nothing could stay on the roof. So what was it that was heavy enough that could walk around up there? Okay, so I started putting two and two together, trying to figure out what are these uncommon things. I went back to 1889, and a person in town in that close to that area went missing. I don't know why, but they went missing. Where were they? Was the bone in the backyard that we discovered possibly that person? Then I looked at the roof, and I kept going through every newspaper I could. And I found out in 1932, the roof was replaced, And a man was up on top working on it, and you have to understand, the house is very tall. He fell off and he died. Broken neck. Okay, that takes care of the roof. Who is this Annie person with the script? Started doing research again. The man that was in the house was the brother of Annie. Well, their father gave him the house because they were living in it when he passed away, so he just gave it to them. She got very upset in the Colorado County Courthouse. She filed all these papers and turned it into a civil suit. She fought her brother over that house. She did not win, but she fought him over that house. Now, one of the things that's interesting here, at the top of the stairs that are in this house, they were built in 1855 in the LaGrange Courthouse, over there where the famed chicken ranch is located. Now, that courthouse was redone to make room for more people to come into it, so they removed the steps and put in an elevator to get you to the second floor. When they did that, the steps sat out front of LaGrange Courthouse, and William Bill Kell had enough sense to look out there, and they didn't know what they were going to do with it, so he bought those old steps from LaGrange Courthouse and installed them in the steps in this house that were getting pretty poor going up to the second floor. So they have the old steps from the 1855 courthouse in LaGrange. Now, the story continues. As we were doing, I have to back up just a moment here, because one of the things that happened was at the head of those stairs as you come up, there's a window. Now, this is, you're not going to believe what I'm telling you, but this is a true story here. That window, I hung curtains up, screwed in some brackets, hung the curtains. Next morning we got up, walked down the hallway, and the curtains were on the floor. That's unusual. So I went up, got longer screws, drilled them in, really kind of pulled on it, and hung those curtains up again. Again, the next morning, the curtains on the floor. So Barbara, my wife, and I started talking about like what to do. Well, she had read that that window was the portal. We could not close that window off, because that's how, if you want to call them ghosts, that's how they came and went into this old house. So here's what I did. I took a 3-inch screw this long and solid cypress wood around all the windows. And I went up and I buried that 3-inch screw into the wall and hung that curtain. I went to bed that night and I said, let's see if that curtain is laying on the floor when we got up in the morning. Sure enough, the next morning, the curtains were on the floor. Now, nobody lived with us. It was just me and Barbara. Barbara and I should be more grammatically correct. That's all. But the curtains were on the floor. Well, guess what? We didn't put those curtains up again. We made friends with Annie. Made friends with the fellow that fell off the roof. We made friends with all of them. So about a year ago, Bill Kell had passed away. And I want to bring this up because when we had the homes tour, a very valuable document was given to Barbara and I for the restoration work we did on the house. It was a handwritten document by Lily Rose Harris. And it talked about her memoirs when she was, and her father and mother were running away from Sam Houston. Now, the book is called The Rose of Bray's Bayou. A lot of her work, writings, showed up in the Southwestern Historical Quarterly, and they've been actually turned into textbooks for students in high school and college to read. It's become the benchmark of the runaway scrape. The reason I wrote that novel was we always hear about the Alamo, what went on with the Alamo, but very little is talked about the women of Texas. So in this particular book, it talks about the women of Texas. God bless Texas women. That's what I said. It shows her relationship with Sam Houston. It shows them running away from Santa Ana. And it's written in creative, historical nonfiction. I still have that document with me. He gave it to us as a gift for the hard work and restoration we did on the house. Bill's no longer with us, but as soon as he had passed, I made it my point to finish that book. And I have a picture of it just while you're here with me. I do want to show you. This is, by the way, not that one, but here we go.